Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the JMO Podcast. I'm your producer, Tayler Michels, and on this episode, we take a deep dive into the bass fishing world with FLW Tour Pro Chad Grigsby. Chad's been fishing professional bass tournaments for upwards of 2 decades now, and in that time, he's won about $1 million in tournament money. Chad's story coming up into this industry is super fun and unique, and it was just a great time to sit down with Chad and listen to his stories. We're super lucky to have him on this week's podcast.
The JMO Podcast is sponsored by Long Haul Trucking. Long Haul Trucking is looking for skilled professional CDL drivers to join their team. Long Haul values their drivers and shippers like nobody else. Their employee-owned ESOP structure has them leading the industry in pay and benefits, geared towards long-term success and growth for company drivers and owner-operators. Long Haul is a people-first company, and it shows. They take pride in giving their drivers an opportunity to have a fulfilling career, along with a healthy, happy life on the home front. If you're a professional CDL driver, get a hold of Long Haul at 1-800-255-5153 or look them up online at longhaultrucking.com. Long Haul, running on the power of promises kept.
Chad Grigsby. Chad
nice.
Grigsby.
You said it really well the first time.
Yeah. I've been practicing for like a week.
Grigsby.
Yeah, man.
Or how my dad would say it, Grisby.
Grisby.
There's no other G.
Yeah, he's like an old
Not
Norwegian
Shaw.
or something.
Not Shaw. Not my real name.
What's your heritage? Grigsby. What's Grigsby?
Hillbilly.
Okay, right on. All right, man. Dude, Chad, you got to tell me about yourself, man. FLW Pro, that probably doesn't define you to a T, dude. Talk to me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you begin? What's Chad Grigsby's beginnings?
That's a great question. No, I grew up in Michigan, and ever since I remember in like 7th or 8th grade writing a note or a letter to Ranger Boats to try to get a sponsorship, because that's all I wanted to do. I never sent it, but I actually in my room sat down why you should sponsor me, because I'm a young guy and all this stuff, kind of corny. I wish I could find the letter. I'm sure it's long gone by now.
That would be a gem.
Oh, it would be really cool. And throughout the years, I am sponsored by Ranger now, but no, I started out fishing local club tournaments. Like when I was 17, I think I fished my first tournament. And I remember it was a night tournament, and before it got dark, it was a team tournament, and 5 fish limit. We caught 2 bass. They were like 3.5 pounders. We're like, oh man, we're going to kill this thing. So from dusk, dark, until 6 a.m., we never caught another bass. Caught the first 2, evening fishing, whatever, and never caught another bass. And just kind of fished locally. We had 30 boat tournaments that were around, we had 6 tournaments around in the, obviously in the summer. I grew up in Michigan. So every month we'd have one from April or May or June, all the way through August. And then we'd have our championship in September. And out of those 30 guys, they're all, old guys that have been doing this for, 15, 20 years. And I come on and I did good. I won. For 5 years in a row, we won. 4 years in a row, we won the Angler of the Year, and 5 years in a row, we won they called it the Classic, because that's, everyone copies Bassmaster. And I don't know, it was just time to move on. You kind of work your way up, and if you, 5 years is probably too long to beat those guys, but, I just worked my way up and fished more regional stuff, and then that got to be, I wasn't dominant local level or anything, but I've always wanted to do it, and had a full-time job and had a few of them, and I actually got fired for fishing too much, and my boss told me either go fishing full-time or go get another job, because you're not going to work here anymore. So that's what I did. I started fishing the tour.
Right on, right away. You didn't, high school, right into getting those jobs that you got fired from? No college, no nothing like that?
No, I didn't. I was not. I hated school. When I was in school, all I could think about was how I could get out and go fishing or go hunting. That's all I ever wanted to do. And I didn't. Back then there wasn't very many hunting shows, and the few there were they were the same guys every year. But as far as fishing, there was opportunities because there were tournaments, and it wasn't like you had to have a show to do it. It's hard to have a hunting tournament. There's no way to make money. You have to either have a show or you have a lot of money and just go hunting all the time. And I didn't have a lot of money, and neither did my parents. So it was a deal where, and my dad didn't fish. I was self-taught. Like me and my buddies, we just figured out how to catch bass. And I just always wanted to tournament fish because it was very intriguing to me. It's competitive, and I played sports in high school, and once you're out of high school, there's nothing competitive unless you do, slow pitch softball or, beer leagues or, whatever. It's not for any money. And it was just, that's what I wanted to do, but I never had the opportunity to do it. And I never had someone tell me I had to do it. And that's what it was when my boss fired me. He's like, you're not married, you don't have any kids, you don't have a mortgage, try it. And if it doesn't work, who cares? Go get another job, So I did, and it worked like right off. Like I did very well the first 3 tournaments that I fished, and I guess the rest is history,
How old were you when you got your first boat?
17.
And you just worked hard in the summers?
Yeah, I did. Back in Michigan, we detassel corn, and you'd actually you could make good money. And I was like, I don't know, I was a hard worker. So, and that's a lot of people that succeed in the world are hard workers. I didn't just and they notice who the hard workers are. So they'd have a big team of people, and you go do a field, and then they see who's getting done first, and they're like, oh, he didn't miss any. So they'd give you your own fields, and then they'd say, hey, we'll give you $500 if you go do this field. Well, that's better than, $10 an hour or whatever we were making. So, because you could get it done in a day or in 3 days or however, just get it done, and here's your money. So I did that and just, worked hard. And I had a paper route when I was 9 or 10 or whatever. I rode my bike and, peddle papers.
Oh, yeah. Learning that work ethic early on.
Yeah, in the day when there was a paper. So.
Yeah. You're probably sick of it back then, but, that was probably planting those seeds, and now you're a hard worker in a fishing boat, so it's kind of like it all comes full circle. But, dude, there's not a lot of people with a story like that, detasseling corn, crankbaits and soft plastics were probably a little cheaper back then, so $500 went a long ways.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They went a long ways, and you get, I remember when I had the paper route, I was riding my bike, and it's like, man, I could get this done a lot faster if I had a moped. So I saved up all my money, and I had enough to get a moped. So then I could do it like super fast, and get then you could do other stuff besides pedal paper. So.
Yeah, get paid the same amount of money.
Exactly.
Do it in less amount of time,
yeah.
and then get out fishing.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. So how old were you when you fished your first pro event?
Oh, that's a great question. I was, it was 2002. So that was how many years ago?
Ooh, it's 2019 now. We don't do what we do because we're good at math, right?
18 years ago? 17 years ago? Yeah, I was pretty young. I didn't really know what I was doing. Probably 26, 27, something like that. I don't know. 28? I don't know.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me there's going to be math in this.
Yeah, I'm struggling just as much as you. But I mean, just to get some perspective on, when a guy comes in pro, I mean, everybody's story is different, right? I mean, you were probably coming in and you were a rookie. There was probably guys that had 5 years of experience that were, younger than you. But then at the same time, you're competing against guys that are older. That fishing industry is just, like tournament fishing, it's just everybody's different. It's just a motley crew of individuals that fill the fields, a tournament field, and it's just it's just a cool story to hear. But was it good right away? I mean, you were touching on it earlier. You might have had some success, but there was probably a couple of times maybe where you were questioning how did it all go the first handful of years.
Well, the first year, and you say that there's guys that were younger than me, guys older than me. And the cool thing about, bass fishing or fishing in general or tournament fishing, the fish don't know how old you are, and they don't know if you're a, male, female, if you're 70, if you're 65. They don't they have no idea. You have to do it. You have to do the work, and it has no bearing. That's the cool thing about our sport. But starting out, I remember my first national tournament was at Beaver Lake, and it was flooded, and they were up on the beds, and like some of them were up like in people's lawns and spawning around, lawn or picnic tables and weird stuff. And I finished. The cut was 20, and I finished like 23rd, and I made $7,500. And I was like, I just got a check. Like my biggest check before that, I won a tournament on Lake St. Clair, and we won like $6,000. That's a team tournament, so you have to split it. And I won a boat that was worth, I don't know. That might have been a little more than that, but you don't get the check for the boat, so it was probably worth $40,000. So I made 20, but it's my own money. Like I did it. Like $7,500. That's a lot of coin for,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then the next tournament, I made the cut, and then I made the top 10, and I made like $12,000 or something. And I'm like, I just made $7,500, $12,000 in like a month, less than a month. I'm like, all right. And then I go to the next tournament, and I'm leading it for the first 2 days, and this is a $200,000 tournament. And I'm like, I just remember going into the third day after leading for 2 days, all these boats are following me, the camera guy's on me, and I did good in the first two, but no one ever paid any, I was just kind of under the radar. Now I'm leading a $200,000 tournament for the first 2 days, and there's 15 boats following me, and there's 2 camera guys, there's one in my boat, and I'm trying to put a jig trailer on, and I'm shaking so bad I can't even put it on. And I'm like taking deep breaths, like, get your stuff together here.
Yeah.
Like, come on, like this, like just fish. I'm just fishing, and I tried to block it out, but for like the first hour, I couldn't like block it out. I'm like, all these people are watching me. Like, I did it all week with no one watching me, and no one knew where I was or anything. Now it's like, hey, you've been leading for 2 days. We're all gonna follow you, and that actually helped me, because I ended up catching one fish that day.
Oh boy.
I finished 20th, and to put it in perspective, my main area honestly got blown out. Like, it blew like 30 from the south, and I was fishing the north bank, and it really got muddy, and that was like my key area. But I really didn't know what to do besides that. I caught one 4-pounder and went and weighed in and dropped from first and they zeroed weights. So I had a pretty good lead on a lot of them, but everybody was at zero. So the guy in 20th was tied with me, and I was in first. But I mean, that's just the rule, so it is what it is. And I dropped, but I just remember that being a learning experience. Like, have a backup plan, or have, you need to have more than like 2 spots, or, just be more open-minded. Well, if that got muddy, I found it in 1 day, so go over here and go fish something new or something you've never done, and try to figure it out over there where it's not all mud. So it's all learning experiences and time on the water. And, there's a reason why Larry Nixon's still doing it, because he's so good. He knows, if this isn't working, let's go do something else. And he's not scared to do it.
Yeah, man. That's obviously a pivotal time in your career. That would be significant for anybody. And there's probably a lot of people that would probably crumble in a situation like that and decide, maybe this isn't for me. So then let's fast forward. How's it been lately for you?
Well, I fished the Opens 3 years ago and qualified for the Elites, or 4 years ago. And I made the transfer from FLW to the Elites. And that was like the worst 2 years I've ever fished in my life. And I don't know why, like, I wasn't comfortable, and there's so many egos over there. And it was just like, I was so comfortable with FLW and everyone I knew, and I knew all the staff, I knew everybody there. And you go to it's basically like taking a new job, kind of doing the same thing, but you just don't fit in, or I didn't feel like part of the club, It's like, I knew all the guys. I've been doing it long enough. Most of those guys have fished both FLW and BASS, but it was just different, and I wasn't comfortable, and I didn't fish right, and I'd fish fast, and instead of being like, I'm pretty laid back, and if it doesn't work here, I'll go figure it out throughout the day, and something's good going to happen. I just never fished like that. Those 2 years went by, and I was like, that was horrible. Like, I didn't even enjoy going. And that's the reason that I fish, because I love it. After the second year there, I was like, I pulled out of the last event because I was just like, I'm done. And, Mountain Dew came and kind of stepped up a little bit. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to fish the tour one more time. Just like, it's all I know. I've been doing it at this time 16 years. And I fished the tour and had a couple good tournaments, and then, had a bad one, and then had another good one. And then I go to St. Clair and have a really good day. Had like 26 pounds the first day. Then I have 24 the next. I'm leading for 2 days, and I'm like, well, I've been in this boat before. And then I catch like 22 the third day, and I fall the second. I'm like, if I'm in the top 10. And then I bust almost 27 pounds the last day and win. And, $125,000 changes a lot of things that goes on the last 2 years. And it opens a lot more doors. And it was just, my family was there, my daughters, my wife Bridget and my 2 daughters were there. And they were there for 3 of the 4 days of the weigh-ins. And they're old enough now where they can remember it. And it was a cool deal. And it just kind of, I actually qualified for the Cup because of the win, and then I went there, and it's qualifying for the Cup's like the biggest goal of the year, and it was just, it kind of changed everything, my perspective, and obviously financials, and opens doors for other potential sponsors, and I've just been rolling with it ever since.
Yeah, I mean that's something that we hear from the tournament guys a fair amount, because it might be hard for people outside the industry to really know. They might see a guy on Facebook or Instagram holding a big check, that says a big number on it, but it's expensive.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the reality is that everything costs money, and you guys that are grinding down on the water, if you're not cashing checks, I mean, it's tough, and for everybody, it's probably different. Some people might grow up with some opportunities that other guys have to grind out for.
Yeah.
But for you to do that, I mean, when you say that kind of shot your trajectory up a little bit, since then, how have you been?
It's good. I had an up and down season this year. I just was so close on it. Bass fishing is it's a game of ounces for one, and like if you land this one, it changes the whole outlook of the week. When stuff's going your way, it's really going your way, and when it's not, it's really not. But I had kind of one of those in between years. It's just like, I had a pretty good tournament, finished 40th. It was all right, made a little money. Then the next one, you're like, I finished 47th. It's not real good. I never just. And I had opportunities to do really good, but I didn't execute, or if it just, a lot of things have to go your way to get it to go right. And I've had 2 or 3 within less than a pound of getting $10,000. Instead, I get nothing. You go home with nothing. Like, it's one bite. It's one, or 2 just mediocre upgrades, and it just changes your whole season. I missed the Cup this year by I think 53 points, and over the course of 6 tournaments or 7 tournaments, that's like less than 10 spots moved up in each one. It's not like you're so close but you're so far away. That's what I feel like.
Talk about the point system. I mean, what is that? I mean, if a lot of people probably don't even for sure understand it. They can see numbers, on a TV screen or whatever.
Well,
but
yeah, it's really easy. I mean, the first place guy gets 200 points. The second place guy gets 199, and on down. So if I finish 30th, I get so many points. But if I finish 20th, I get 10 more points than that. So in each event, if I would have just been 7 more spots ahead, or just one tournament, 56 spots higher than I mean, it's just so close, and that's how frustrating it is. Because, at the last tournament, I finished 79th, and they pay 60, and I was 14 ounces from
cashing a check.
Yeah, $10,000.
Yeah, 14 ounces. That's
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Less than a pound.
Yeah.
Man.
So, I mean, that's just how it is. And I know that, and I knew when I weighed in, I'm like, I'm not going to get a check. I mean, I did everything I could. I was catching good fish, 3-pounder, 3-pounder, 2.5, 3-pound. I never had a 4-pounder. The whole week for 2 days, I never had a 4-pounder. And I fished one day in practice in that area and caught 4 4-pounders and a bunch of 3s and a bunch of 3.5. And it was one in the area I was fishing. Like, I just, it is what it is. And I've been way more upset about tournaments when I finished that low, but I knew I was doing the right thing and I knew I was in the right area. I just didn't get the bites, and I didn't lose any. And it was just like, they didn't bite.
Yeah. Sometimes they just don't get the memo,
right.
That's fishing.
Like, hey,
though.
Grigsby's here. We should start biting new stuff.
Yeah, no, but that's just fishing,
Yeah.
Sometimes you're on other end of the spectrum, but,
Yeah.
but, man, you don't only fish for work. You got to fish for fun sometimes.
Well, like I said, I have 2 daughters. They're 11 and 9, and we went out before this last tournament that I left for, and the bluegills were on the bed, and they own it. Like, they're up there. I usually bring my rod and reel, but 2 of them just, like, there's probably 150 beds up there. They got one every cast, and if they don't have one, their worm fell off, so I got to I'm, like, trying to, like, sneak a couple casts in there, and they're like, I got one. I'm like, oh, man. All right, I'll take that one off. And they're getting old enough now, they're like, I want to take it off. I said, all right. Well, then I got to watch them take it off because that's going to be trouble if I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a, hook in my finger like I get in my legs.
Yeah.
Whatever. and so, yeah, that's my fun when I get to go. I take them and, like, I fish so much. It's like I enjoy the competition part of it. So going out just fishing for fun, it's not that much fun for me. I like to beat I want to beat the other competitors. And if there's not any other competitors, I mean, when it's crazy, silly, like super good. And this spring I went to a couple lakes and it was really good. And we fished for a couple days and really, really aired them out. But other than that, I want to go beat 160 guys,
Sure.
That's my motivation.
Yeah, and when you get home, it's probably nice to just decompress. And what's that like for you?
Yeah, it's we travel a lot, and now it's summertime, so girls are out of school, and we can play around and do whatever. It's just more fun now that when I get to the house to be able to go do stuff with them in the summer. That's why I'll take them fishing this week again, and just a little more relaxing. Then we live up here in the north where you don't do hardly anything in the winter because it's horrible.
Yeah. Well, unless you like ice fishing,
Which
whatever.
I don't. But I mean, our season starts in January, so right when ice gets really, when I really want to go, I got a couple buddies that have ice, ice castles or whatever. Oh, it's not ready yet. It's not ready. And then, then you got Christmas and New Year's, and then I'm on the road after that. It's a lot of holiday stuff in the, December, and I want to go out in the ice house, but ice isn't 100% by then. But by the time I leave, they're sending me pictures of walleye and stuff they catch that I don't get to.
And being a Midwest guy fishing the FLW, it starts in January. What's that like for you, or what's that been like for you? I mean, these guys down south, they keep their boats wet all year. What kind of advantage do you think that is, or maybe you being able to get a little bit of a break and then you come back in, recharged into the beginning of the season? What's that like for you?
I like it personally. I mean, I like to fish, and I fish a lot, but I think those guys get, even the guys from Florida, and typically this year we started in Texas, but normally we start in Florida. And I've always done really good in Florida, and I think the reason why is I'm so ready to go fishing, and so I'm coming from, 10 inches of snow or whatever, and getting down there, and those guys have been down, they've already got tan lines and they barely lost their tan lines, and it's just starting to warm up again. And I get down there and I'm so ready to fish and so like free of, the grind of fishing. Like, it's a long season. I mean, it's a lot of hours on the lake, and I haven't had it for 2, 3, 4 months, because from October on, we don't sometimes you get to fish in October, but not real often. So I just go down there and I'm super excited about it. And a lot of the guys down there, I don't think not necessarily they're not excited about it, but not as excited as guys coming from up where I'm at, where they drove through 10, 20 inches of snow to get there, and then get there and you wearing flip-flops and sandals, or flip-flops and shorts and T-shirts, and you're like, man, let's go fishing.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
And, let's talk a little bit about traveling. Like, what's your process? So it starts in January. How much pre-fish do you get? Like, what's your pre-fish like? What's your pre-tournament routine?
Well, our pre-fish is 3 days. That's all you get. So you get Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then we have Wednesdays off for meetings and, media stuff. And then Thursday through Sunday, it's all out. But the travel and, all that, it's a lot of planning, and, you got to get places to stay. And we used to camp, and we'd haul a fifth wheel. And when I first started, I had a pop-up camper, and I've got a kind of little core group of guys that we run with, and we either know someone on the lake or we rent a house, and we'll get there the day before, and everyone goes to the grocery store, and we have a list of things, and we cook every night. And it's kind of like, it's more like being at home when you do that, and you're not in a hotel where you have to worry about people stealing your stuff. And so that's kind of how we've been doing it, if the travel part of it. And that just works for us. And I mean, it's better than hauling that camper around, because I did that for years, and that was kind of a pain.
Yeah, I bet. But I mean, you're just paying tuition then. Those are the years that somebody comes in, some young guy comes in, and he's not doing that. It's like, boy, you better step up. You better go hook up to that camper and do it right, man. You got 5-10 years of grinding to get on our level.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. But so then you've probably fished a lot of these bodies of water as the years have gone by. But talk a little bit about whether you've fished a body of water before, or you're getting on a body of water for the first time. Like, what's the vibe in the FLW as far as, like, how much information is shared? How do you break down a body of water in 3 days? Because I mean, it's 3 days because it's regulated.
Yeah.
Because it's only 3 days. You can't. Everybody's on the same playing field, right?
Yeah, that's why. Because there used to be guys that would go from one event to the next, didn't have family, didn't have not responsibility. Not that that's not responsible, but didn't have obligations to go do anything else. And it was kind of like, come on, man, this guy's been on the water for 3 weeks, and I can get there 4 or 5 days before, but I can't do it for 3 weeks. And they finally made it where, all right, everyone gets 3 days. There's an off limits before that, and it's just, you just got to figure it out. I'll look and see what, if there's tournaments that have been on it, see what the weights are. But I'm not a guy that calls and gets information, or is like, trying to get waypoints, and I don't even save a lot of my own waypoints. I don't save them, because I just think that's fishing memories or fishing old stuff, or I try to remember how I caught them and kind of like general areas where they live in the lake. But as far as keeping a waypoint, like besides like a place on Lake Erie where it's a rock pile, something like that, it's a lot of it's grass, a lot of it's, changes every year. And not only does it change every year, but we may have been there in January one year and we're going in March the next year. So if I save these waypoints, I'm just going to go, I better go to this waypoint and check it, because you know how good it was last time we were here. Well, that was 4 years ago, and it was in January. So who cares?
Yep.
So that's why I try to keep an open mind to every lake we go to, and try to fish it like a new lake, and just go, hey, I've never been in here. I've been here 3 times, but I've never been in this creek. So let's go in here and check it out. And I just try to keep an open mind always and try to fish what the fish tell you to do and time of year and just figure it out, because every tournament's different and every year's different on every lake.
Do you like that format, that 3-day format?
Oh, yeah. I wish it was like 2.
Yeah.
And even on the big bodies of water, I wish it was 2. But I actually would like to have a couple that they just let you go without no practice.
Yeah.
I think you'd find out who's really good and like who's not.
Yeah, but well, and what talking about guys that would otherwise have the opportunity to go, as much as they want versus, talk about the field. I mean, there's not everybody's obviously fishing on a full-time fishing income. I mean, it's expensive. There's a lot of guys that have jobs. What's that like in the FLW?
Well, yeah, excuse me. There is, a lot of guys do have jobs, but the guys that are on the top of the game, that's what they do. I mean, but there's a lot of guys that have and it might not be a full-time job, but it may be a job that makes ends meet or whatever. But I mean, that's just what they got to do to get by. And fortunately, I've been blessed to be able to do this for the last 17 years and really focus on what I'm doing instead of worrying about. I just remember guys back when I first started, and I'd see them practice, and they'd be on the phone, and I'd get close to them, and they'd be like, I could tell they were talking to like a sales guy or to, their secretary, or they weren't like some of the guys you go by, they're talking fishing with somebody else. But I'm like, God, I don't know if I could do that. Like, you're spending that much time talking back at your shop, or some of the guys own businesses or whatever. You're like, that'd be so hard. Like, how would you ever get anything done on both? It would, for your fishing part and the business side of it. Like, you're missing out on figuring out how to catch fish, and then you're not focusing on your company that's paying all the bills. So I've been fortunate where I can concentrate like 100% on fishing and not have to worry about anything besides that. My job is to catch 5 bass every day, and hopefully they're bigger than everybody else's, and that's all I have to focus on. And I've been very lucky over the last few years, to do that.
Yeah, and you found out early what the alternative is, because you're just going to get fired anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Now it'd just be like I've got to fire myself because I'm running out of money. But I've had good sponsors over the years, and all sponsors come and go. But I've had some that have been with me for a long time, and it's really nice to have those guys, and it just is it's been working out, and hopefully I can keep it going for another 17 years. My wife always said, what are you going to do when you're tired? I'm like, I'd go fishing, so why don't I just keep fishing?
Yeah. I mean, talking about, having jobs, or, the guys fishing full time, and obviously that's such a big thing for being competitive, but also just that mindset, like you said, guys talking in the boat. I mean, successful people don't give themselves a plan B.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's been said a million times about a million careers and things like that. Professional athletes, like football players, whatever. You just, so many guys with so much talent, but, they had a plan B. They had a family business or something to go back on. And there was just a couple of times where they decided to, lay up instead of go for the hole. Go for the green, and sometimes you hit it, sometimes you wind up in the toolies, but if that's your one thing, if that's your one option, you just got to go. Yeah,
exactly. And I was real close to that a couple years ago, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. It's like, I pulled out of the last event, and I'm just, it's all I've done for, 14, 15 years. And I don't know, but it's something about failing. Like, I've always said, failing is preparation for success. It teaches you how to get better or how to be better. And those 2 years that I was at Bassmasters, it was like I failed miserably, and I wanted to be better, and I didn't really know how. And there was a couple of guys that gave me the opportunity to do it, and I was like, I'm not going to screw this up again. Like, not that I screwed it up, but I just wasn't fishing good. I wasn't fishing clean. I felt like I had really good practices, but I never executed in the tournament. And that year was like, each tournament got better and better and better. And then it was kind of the season finale where I won and got into the cup. And I was like, okay, I know I can do it. But you start to doubt yourself when you fail.
Yeah.
And, some guys never fail. Some guys are just,
Yeah, I don't know about that. They just haven't lived long enough.
Well, I'm talking in sports.
Yeah.
Some guys are just, Van Dam has never failed. Like, he's had bad tournaments, but he's a great fisherman, and he always, he had a bad tournament, and then the next one he might win, And he's an anomaly, but I'm just saying, if you want to do something bad enough, and if you have the drive, and if you believe in yourself, you can do it. It's just you may have to fail a couple times and figure out, the way I was doing it isn't going to work. So we need to, if you really want to do it, change how you're doing it or figure it out if you are really that good. I mean, and there's 1,000 stories where they, guys want to do it, but they just don't have the talent or the drive or, whatever it is. And I don't know. I believe in myself, and luckily my wife believes in me, and I'm going to fail, but hopefully the failures are a lot less than the success. So
yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of opportunity in the FLW, obviously. But you think what would the opportunity have to look like for you to maybe take another peek into the elites?
I don't, it's changed a lot now that, the elites are completely different than when I was there with the MLF coming on, and most of those guys are gone. And I've talked to a lot of the guys that are still there that I've fished against, and they say it's completely different. It's so much more laid back, and not I'm not saying laid back is good, because it's still a competition. It's still competitive, but it was to the point where, I don't know, it was more than competitive. It was like there was no air to breathe in the room because there were so many egos. You know what I mean? And I'm not bashing either one. It was just a different animal at that time because the egos that were there, and, it was just one of those things. It was just like, I'm pretty laid back, and I'm not a full-fledged redneck, but I'm, I like to think I am, but I'm halfway sophisticated. But these guys are like, they almost felt like they looked down on you, And it's just like, I want to catch bass. That's what I want to do.
Yeah,
that's all I've ever wanted to do.
The bass don't care.
Yeah, they don't. Like I said, they don't care if you're a woman, if you're a man, if you're fat, if you're skinny. They don't care.
Yeah.
Like an athlete in football, like you can't be a quarterback when you're 450 pounds. If you're 450 pounds of your bass fishing, they don't know. They don't know.
Go for it.
They don't care.
Yep.
Your boat might go a little slower, but they don't care.
Yep.
And it's kind of a different competition, but it was uncomfortable, and for me, and some guys thrive on that stuff, but I didn't. So
yeah,
I've never seen myself necessarily trying to requalify, and maybe, who knows? I may, but right now I'm happy with where I'm at, and I've had a couple really good years. And
yeah, I mean to be in a place where you feel better, and you're getting ready to fish. Let's see, now we're kind of in the off season, but when do they announce where you're gonna fish?
They'll announce it next month, in about 3 weeks. They'll announce the schedule for 2020.
And then those lakes are on lockdown until 3 days before you fish.
No, you can fish up until 20 days before, whatever it is. I don't know.
Okay, so there's just like a 20-day buffer.
Yeah, and then so it's kind of an off limits where you can't go from one tournament to it again, but if you live on the lake, you can fish it. Or you can do
sure,
whatever.
sure.
There's a little bit of an off limits where you can't get information. You can't be on the water. You can't, you just pretend like the lake's never there. And then 3 days before, we all go on and try to figure it out.
If they go to a lake that you've never been to before, do you go take a peek on it before that 20-day?
I have before, but our tournaments are all in the spring, and so much changes in the spring, even if it's in January. So we're going to go somewhere warm or halfway warm. It's usually not, freezing cold. So it's warming up quickly there. So whatever you learn the month before the tournament, it's all going to change anyway. I've been to a few events where I've never been before, passing through, and I'm like, I'm going to stop here, find out where the ramps are, find out where this is, look, get kind of, it's nice to know your way around, but I've been to so many of these lakes. I know, like, we went to Rayburn. We started this year, and like, I got a place where we stay, and I know where, this place is. I know where this gas station is. I know where the grocery store, and we're out in the country. Like, Rayburn's in the middle of nowhere. And that's the little things that saves you time, where everything is. That'd be the only reason I might drive around the lake just to look at it, but as far as finding fishing spots, it's useless.
Yeah. It comes down to those 3 days.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, 3 days, that's a lot to ask for all them boats, to go out. I mean, that's, you just, if somebody was going to go on a fishing trip somewhere, 3 days, sometimes it takes you 3 days. You don't find them till the last afternoon. You got to go home. So, I mean, that's
all right, because that afternoon would be the last day of practice. Then you get to start the tournament when it really counts.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, for somebody that doesn't do it or has never fished a tournament, but enjoys watching it, it's hard to have that appreciation for what you guys do or what you're asked to do against each other on tournament day or day one of the tournament.
Yeah.
You guys are, you're working hard. You get, you get to fish for a living, but, it's a grind.
Oh yeah. Most people don't understand how much time and effort we put in. The last tournament was at Lake Champlain. We got to we basically get to, they don't let you put in until sunrise. It's sunrise to sunset. And sunrise was 5:07. Sunset was 9:48. So you get, sorry, I'm making you do math again. 5 o'clock in the morning until almost 10 o'clock
almost
at
10
night.
o'clock at night. Yeah.
And that's what you put in. So but you can't just magically be on the water at 5:07. You got to get up at 4, and you got to get your stuff around, and then you got to drive to the ramp because it's probably 15, 20 minutes away. Then you get on at 5. Then you fish till 9:30 or so, and it's almost time. Then you go back. Then you got, put your boat away, plug in, go fix dinner. Next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock. Then you got to go to bed. Well, guess what? You got to get up at 4 again.
Yep.
So you
and
get 5
somewhere
hours.
in there, you gotta call your wife,
Yeah.
and you gotta, say hi to the kids,
Yeah.
and I mean, so it's, it's just definitely an interesting thing for people to hear, to hear about that are just seeing the weigh in on TV,
Yeah.
or just seeing what
There's a lot
social
that goes
media
into
says,
it. Yeah.
and so I mean, anytime you got the Instagram story going where, you're showing that process. I mean, that stuff's interesting just for the perspective of the spectator. I mean, that stuff's really cool. So
16-hour days, practice days, 15 to 16 hours, depending on if you're falling asleep on the front deck or not. But long days.
Yeah.
And then after that's over, then you got to go compete. It's just not scouting anymore. Now you got to execute and make sure you don't miss anything. And it's just, there's a lot more that goes into it than that what people think. If it was an hourly wage, we'd make like $4 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter because I haven't worked in the last 17 years.
Yeah. If you love what you do, right?
Yeah. So.
Right on, man. Awesome, dude. Well, appreciate this story so much, Chad. It's awesome to have you on the podcast. You got a great story, man. Where can people find you? You on social medias?
Yeah. Grigsby Fishing on both Twitter or Instagram and Facebook. And actually, I think my YouTube channel, we just launched that a couple weeks ago or a month ago or so. It's Chad Grigsby Fishing. Right on, man. Awesome. Go check that stuff out. Yeah, dude. Good luck this next season, man. Hopefully you get a little bit of this summer to downtime, spend time with the family. But we look forward to keeping track of your season here coming up, man. Thanks. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Awesome, man. Yep.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of the JMO Podcast. Head on down to the comment section. Let us know your thoughts, and if there's anything you'd like to hear on a future episode, we'd love to hear about it.